May 28th, 2023. You're listening to Oblast with Don and Kevin, and I am Kevin.
Yeah, I'm Don.
And this week, we're going to talk about nothing, because I got nothing to talk about. It's the holiday tomorrow. You doing anything for Memorial Day, Don?
I am working.
Really? Oh, I guess the furniture store. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I get to go to work.
Those sales are going on. Yeah, it's bullshit. Yeah, they should. Do you get like holiday pay though? They have to, right? You got to get some kind of double time because it's the law.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's good. So, I mean, sorry that you have to work. You don't get the 3-day like everybody else, but they should get double money because that's cool.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, whatever.
I was off for 6 days. I'm off until Wednesday, and we did our disaster recovery event at work last weekend, and that went on until 5 a.m. We started like 1 a.m, and then we do it until 5 a.m. And it went almost flawless, but there were a couple of blips, so we dealing with that. We also having a little bit of weird issues with the changeover. What happens is I mean, just in case anybody's curious what a disaster recovery event is it's basically like all of our software runs out of a data center. Like, I don't know where the data center is, right? But let's just say it's in like Virginia, right? And once a year, we have to switch from having all our software running in Virginia to having all of our software run in, like, say, California or something. And so we have duplicate infrastructure in both locations. It's all virtualized, but it's duplicate. So same number of servers, same software installed on both. Everything's the same. And then but one is online working as, the production system, and the other one's on standby. And so then we have a process that we go through starting at 1 a.m. for my particular product. And we perform a number of actions that are all documented, that are all, done in a certain way to sort of, shut down the existing system, turn on the other system, and make sure everything is working and operational. It's kind of a big deal because if anything gets screwed up, it's a big pain in the ass to, get people to work on it in the middle of the night. So we do that, because if there ever is like a problem with one of the data centers and we got to get back up and running, we have to be able to do that. And so we test it once a year doing this. So that's what I did last week. So I was kind of tired. So I got a little bit of a comp day and I stacked it on some extra holidays. So I ended up with 6 days off, which is nice. I haven't really done very much though. Weather's been nice. We've had nice Ohio, Cleveland-ish weather. It's
warm days, cool nights.
Yeah, not too hot, right? It's kind of under 80, which is nice. And then, like Don said, cool nights, no rain. It's pretty good. It's basically like this for a week, and that's what it feels.
This is the 1 week.
Yeah, that's what it feels like normally around here. And then we're going to probably get like a sweltering blanket of heat. And Don and I will talk about it, right?
Eventually.
We'll tell everybody how miserable it is when it's going on because it's the way of things. Surprisingly, being spring in Cleveland, I'll say this. We normally get a fair amount of thunderstorms, I would say, normally. It's probably, I would say it's not unusual over the course of the whole spring to get about a dozen thunderstorms rolling through here. I think we've had like 1 or 2 so far this spring. It hasn't been much. It's surprising because I watched the news down south. They're getting wiped out by tornadoes and everything. It's like it's crazy anywhere else you go. But we've been getting off pretty lucky so far. Not really having. We've had some rain, but we really haven't had any thunder. I think we had like 1 or 2.
Come.
Oh yeah, probably right. Although it's already
warm.
It
always does.
Yeah. And so it's been unusually. We had a calm winter, and we're having an unusually calm spring. I mean, we could be the vacation destination of the future.
Boom.
Our
Come to
weather,
Cleveland.
well, yeah, our weather may be awesome for some reason. It's all changing. That's the one thing
Look
that's
at the
kind of
lake.
the one thing that's kind of weird is when you look at when the people talk about global warming and stuff, right? And they talk about climate change and all this sort of stuff. One thing that people, don't, well, some scientists think about, but regular people don't hear about or don't think about is changes in the jet stream, right? So, around the planet, there's this jet stream of air that moves around and sort of is a constant, and it kind of will move up and down in certain places depending on if there's high pressure or low pressure, above it or below it. But it's this, you'll see it on the weather reports a lot. You'll see the jet stream, moving a line across the United States. Sometimes it's a little bit above and then it comes slamming down, and then it kind of goes up, and it's a little zigzag thing, right? But it's always kind of going across, the United States. And then when it gets out into the Atlantic, it kind of turns and it goes up, right? And it goes up towards Europe. And then it kind of takes a right and then goes across Europe. And the thing is that, if you were just to not think about the jet stream for a minute, and you just looked at the globe of the Earth, where the United States is sitting, we're kind of down a little bit, right? Like we're kind of getting closer to the equator versus where Europe is. Europe is more north. Europe is kind of like Canada, right? Like it's like in the same region of the globe that like Canada is. And what is Canada? Canada, I mean, they have some warm summers and everything, but they're pretty freaking cold, right?
Right.
And yet Europe is not. And the reason Europe isn't is because of the jet stream. And if you had like a significant change in the weather pattern on Earth due to, let's just say global warming, whether you believe it or not, but you could think of anything. The jet stream can change, and it has in the past changed, not the early past, thousands or tens of thousands of years. I don't know how long ago it was. And it pointed in a different direction. It kind of went down over Africa, and that's when, all that warm, moist air would go over Africa. And that's when you had that time period when the Libyan desert was actually green and forests. And, you had every time you look at Egypt, it looks like a desert with pyramids, but there was a time period when that was all, lush and everything like that. And Europe was like Canada. It was, kind of a frozen north, and this is ancient times. Like it's probably pre-Roman history, pre all of that kind of stuff, because, the Romans are all walking around in shorts and stuff or whatever, their little skirts and their sandals and stuff. Yeah. Like it's just warm in Italy, but if that thing ever changes, if it ever decides I'm not going to go north anymore, I'm going to go back down towards Africa, Europe would be in trouble, And I don't know with the United States, we could we could get warmer or we could get cooler. I don't know, So that's something you don't hear about, but it could happen at any point. It's just one of those weird weather things that it could shift around in such a way that all of a sudden our whole dynamic would change. And I don't know. I mean, we'd survive. It's not like the end of the world or anything, but a lot of people would be moving. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It'd be like, this shit's too cold, man. We got to go down south. I hear Africa's great. Let's go to Africa, and things like that. And maybe India, which is always hot and stuff, maybe it starts getting more temperate and cool and just things like that. I don't know. It's just interesting thing to think about. So,
yeah.
Did you have a good week, Danny? Did you do anything interesting this week?
Well, my mom's in Scotland.
Oh yeah, okay. Have you talked to her at all? Did you do it?
No, because they won't answer the phone.
Okay, well, at least you tried.
I tried calling. I called the other day because she's like, can you call at 11 o'clock your time? And I was like, all right. I said, well, the only 2 days I could do that was Thursday and Sunday. And she says, okay. And I said, so Thursday, 4 o'clock your time, where you're going to be at. I said 11 o'clock my time. said, be at the phone because I'm going to call you. And that's how it's always been.
Yeah.
So every time she goes, whatever day, you know what I mean? It's like, just be by the phone at 11 o'clock in case I call,
Right.
and if I don't call within then you get to go about your day. Or vice versa, whatever.
Yeah.
So Thursday came along and I said, all right, I got to give her a call. I dialed the number and get a voicemail thing. Right. So I was like, all right, cool. I left a message. I hung up the phone. I walked away. I said, you know what? I'll give it a couple minutes. I'll call back. I'll try a second time. I come back. I dial the number. I go to pick up the phone, and it's it's no dial tone. It's and that noise that the phone makes when it's out, or like when you take it off the receiver. People don't know what that means. People are all like, taking off the receiver. What the fuck does that mean? Remember when you used to take the handset off the receiver, and if you left it off long enough, that noise it would make.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Real fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Right?
Real. Yeah. Such a weird thing too. Like, I mean, once in a while it would kind of be, oh, the phone's off the hook, and you'd put it back on.
Right.
But most of the time you wanted to leave the phone off the hook, but you had to put up with that noise for, I don't know, man, like 5 minutes or something. I mean, we went on for a while before it.
Then it just cut out.
Yeah. Then it just stopped.
But yeah, so then I pick up the phone and it's making that noise. And I was like, what? I go, what the hell? So the phone was out all day. I tried on my cell phone, didn't get through. It called today. I had to get up early to go pick up the kid because I usually pick her up at 11. So I was like, I got to be there early so I could be home by 11 to call grandma. And I got home, I called, nobody, nothing. Nobody answered. I mean, the phone, the house phone came back on. I don't know how. I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. I made a phone call. I hung it up. I picked it back up. It's making a noise. 24 hours later, it's fine.
I'm just imagining it's Scotland. So I'm imagining like a rotary dial phone sitting there with like one of those big handle things on it, going with a real, thing.
It's 2023. They have buttons now.
Or it's
come
like
on.
One of those ones that's just like on the wall. It's just like a receiver.
You're right, with the bells, the two bells on top.
You gotta wind it.
Yeah, you gotta crank it.
Hello, America. Hello.
Garfield 1, 2323, please.
Is that Donnie? Donnie, hello. This is Scotland.
But I got an email from her.
Oh, well, that's good.
Telling me that her tablet's broken because that's how she communicates with email and stuff, is with her tablet.
Okay.
I guess TSA searched her bag, and when they pulled it out, they tried plugging it in, and they fucked the plug all up.
That's weird. They had to look at her tablets. What the hell were they looking at her tablet for? Like, what do they think that lady's going to have on her tablet that they need to inspect? Like, she's going to have a list of like narcotics on there or something? It's strange.
You never know.
That's a little weird.
But yeah, so they ended up jacking up her power input on her tablet. So now she can't plug it in. And, they're like, well, just make sure it's not a bomb. Like, trust me, my 85-year-old mother isn't bringing a bomb. She just wants to go to Scotland.
Right. I know, man. It's crazy. Decide to search her thing. It's weird.
Yeah. So she sent me an email. I got that. It didn't mention any of the phone calls. So I don't know. I might have a wrong number. I'm trying to figure it out because there's only one number in the phone book because my mom actually has an address book.
I mean, she could call you, right? I mean, she knows your number.
I think so, but she's the kind of person who's like, well, I don't want to put that on their long distance bill.
Well, she doesn't have I get it.
Yeah, right. I guess I should have prefaced that to everybody. There's no cell phones being used here. This is all landlines. This is all 1980. What me and Kevin were talking about a couple of weeks ago. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I had to pick up a phone and hit a button so that the dial tone would come on. People don't even know what a dial tone is now. You play a busy signal for somebody, they'll be like, what the fuck is that? You'd be like, it's a busy signal. And they're like, what the fuck's a busy signal? I mean, I heard one and was like, oh my God, I forgot all about that. It was because I was like, why the fuck doesn't Adam have call waiting? But yeah, so she's in Scotland. And you know what? And you would say to yourself, you're like, hey man, sweet, got the house. You could do whatever you want. You can,
right.
No, nothing new. nothing crazy, nothing spectacular going on here. Still going to work, I'm still coming home, going to the girlfriend. going and hanging out with her. We're getting wrangled into a lot of dog watching lately. Like, hey, I got to go to work, and her daughter wants to go to Cedar Point. Can I watch the dogs? And it's like Saturday night, and I'm off. You know what I mean?
Right.
I could go right out and see somebody and hang out with somebody.
You don't want to do that though.
I don't, but it's like, I know that I have to, you know what I mean? It's like, you just got to show up every so often to keep everybody,
Yeah. Though you're alive.
keep them reeled in.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? You give them a little taste. They go, oh my God, there's Anderson. And then you just disappear. and then it's just like, dude, I saw him. And then now I want to see him again. Where is he? You know what I mean?
Right.
You just reset that whole thing.
You know what's funny about talking about ringing people on the phone? It's like back in the day when I was first learning how to use the phone, like when I was a kid, probably would ring the phone like 3 times and then hang up. Sometimes I'd ring the phone like 5 times and then hang up. And then you get to like a point where you're calling somebody and you're tired of nobody answering the phone. So you just let it ring forever, basically.
Yeah.
You're just like, you're going to answer. When you walk in the door, you're going to pick this phone up.
Right.
You're going to talk to me because I'm going to sit here and call you and it's going to ring. And you could let it ring for like, I don't know, man, like 100 rings. And then it would kind of, I think, usually reset or something. It would be like, and you'd have to do it again. But most of the time you could just ring somebody and just let it ring. You just set the phone down kind of in earshot, see if you hear a voice, answer it or something. And it would just ring because you I don't know how to explain it, but you wanted to talk to somebody and they obviously weren't home, but they should have been or something. And you'd be fed up. You'd just be like, I'm calling until you pick up the phone. I don't know. I mean, people mostly got answering machines and then eventually everybody got voicemail. But before that, or the people that just didn't buy an answering machine, I mean, you just call, you just ring and ring and ring and ring and ring until they answer the damn phone.
Back in like 87, I want to say it was, because I was working at Wendy's. So that's why it's like 87, 88. My brother was moving and I was going to help him move. So I was going to stay over the night before and I was going to watch my nephew while him and his wife went out. Him and my sister-in-law went out. So I went over there. I watched the kid, we hung out. I went to sleep there and stuff. Woke up the next morning. Everybody's all hungover, except for me, obviously. But everybody's all hungover, drunk and stuff. And they're like, "Where's so-and-so?" And my sister-in-law's like, "I don't know. I'll call his house." And she calls. That's the exact situation you said. She's sitting on the phone while it's ringing. And it's ringing and it's ringing and it's ringing and it's ringing. She's like, "This motherfucker, this guy, he's passed out. I know he's passed out. The phone's probably right there in front of his face. And he can't hear it. He can't see it. This guy, blah, 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 blah." She goes, "Whatever." Puts the phone down on the counter and goes, "He's going to hear it eventually."
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly. So, yep.
It's like, I know exactly what you're talking. I was sitting there watching like, that phone's just going to ring forever.
Yeah.
Like, that'll never end.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I used to do that, or you'd call into radio stations trying to win tickets to something or whatever. And just ring and ring and ring, and then they pick up the phone. They'd be like, "You're caller 4," and then just hang up on you.
Yeah, right.
It'd be like caller 12 or something. You're like, crap.
That's one of my favorite stories with me and Oz driving around was when the radio station was giving away like Pantera tickets or something, like the college station. And this was back in the early 90s when neither of us, I don't even think we had pagers. I might have had a pager, but I mean, there was nothing. Oh no, it probably did. But we're driving around listening to the radio and they're like, "Hey, call, in the next 5 minutes or whatever, caller number 20 or whatever. We got 2 tickets to go see Pantera." Me and him were like, "Holy, we got to get to a payphone. We got to get to payphones." And we're like, "Do we got quarters?" And it's like, we each had a quarter. It's like, cool. We went to the payphone. We found 2 payphones next to each other and we ran in there and, you put the quarter in, you dial the number, busy signal, hang up, get your quarter, put your quarter in,
Yep.
Dial the number, busy signal, get your quarter back, right? And we kept going. I put my quarter in, I dial the number, it rings. I was like, sweet. The guy comes on and goes, "You're number 10. Click. And I was like, oh. And I hang up the phone and I'm like waiting for the quarter to fall. I'm like, where's my quarter? Like, no, I need my quarter. I started freaking out. Oz was going, and then I think he just kept getting a busy signal, but it was just funny because I wasn't even thinking about it. It's like I only got one quarter, and the guy, it actually rang, and I was so excited. The guy actually picked it up, and I was so excited. He's just like, nope, you're not it. Click. It's like, I'm out.
Exactly.
Like, son of a bitch.
So fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Ruin your life. It'll ruin your day, just like that.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Came out of the movies once and needed to call my dad on the payphone. I only had one quarter. I put it in the thing. I dialed the number. He picks up the phone. He's like, hello. I was like, hey, Dad, I'm all done. And some kid came by and hung up the phone, like, and just hung up on me. Like, some kid, he just walked by. It was just like, click, and hung up. And I was just like, oh. And it was like, dude, you don't know who you just hung up on. Like, are you for real? Like, holy shit, this guy's going to kill me because of you.
Yeah. That's funny.
I remember I think I ended up running down to Mark's and being like, I need to use your phone, please. I have to call my dad right now before he blows a gasket because I know he's freaking, like, I know he wants to kill me. You know what I mean? Because he hears my voice and then I just hang up.
Oh my God, that's funny. Oh, Jesus.
But yeah, see, you used to get in all kinds of dumb shit without the cell phone.
Dude.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
You could prank people better, but whatever. That's a whole different art.
I used to crank call people all the time, man. Just call random numbers. Some numbers were just weird. He'd call some numbers, they're just weird. Answering machines, voicemails, strange things you'd find on, Yeah, those days were weird.
Yeah, so it's just been a normal week over here. They had a barbecue yesterday. Like, at work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at work they had a potluck.
Oh,
like it's a potluck, and then they're looking at me and they're like, "So what are you bringing?" And I'm just like, "Nothing." and they're like, "What?"
Most disinterested employee ever is that. Not participating in nothing.
I'm like, it's because look at, man, like in that place I work. I work. I'm in the warehouse, so there's always something. We always have stuff to do. We always have to move something. We always have to lift something. You know what I mean? It's like these people get it. They if there's no customers or anything out there and there's nobody calling, they get to sit there and they fall asleep on the couch. They're just staring at their phone half the time. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm struggling with this couch over here, and they're just like, hey, look at him, and they laugh at me and stuff. But it's like the one lady's like, so what are you bringing? And I was like, I ain't bringing anything. And she goes, what? And I was like, I don't care about any of that. It's like, it's all good. I was like, I'm not planning on participating because I'm going to be at work. I said, I'm going to be planning on doing work because I can't afford to not do anything. Because if I don't do anything, then I get behind and I can't,
Right. Yeah, I get it though.
Right. Well, then Saturday came along and my boss comes back and he goes, did you get something to eat? And I was like, no, I didn't bring anything. I'm not participating. And he goes, bullshit, go up there and get something to eat. And I'm just like, what? And he's like, I brought plenty of stuff for everybody. I got you covered. Just tell them you brought buns or whatever. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And I went up there, dude. I had a hamburger, a hot dog, I had like deviled eggs. I was eating buffalo chicken dip. They were brown. This lady made these awesome brownies. I was like, holy shit. I mean, those are good.
Yeah, it's food. I mean, you're going to eat if you can.
Yeah. And then I proceeded to do nothing the rest of the day.
Ready to go to sleep at that point, full
stomach. Yeah.
You're done.
I was just like, you know what? You guys are on your own. Fuck you. I'm not working. I'm not doing shit. So.
It's great.
But yeah, that's it, man. I got to see my kid today. She got a new boyfriend. And
I think I saw something on your ex's prom. I think they went to prom.
She went to prom. I got pictures of that, dude. I told you about that. I told you about that because I told you about that old bike.
Or is she a junior?
No, she is a junior. Okay. She's gonna be a senior.
Yeah. No, I was just
Yeah.
So she was done with school already. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, school's over for the year. So, but school's over for the year. I pick her up today, and I was like, "So, how long are you staying?" She goes, probably till about 6 or 7. Okay. She got shit to do.
Yeah. That's what they do, man.
So
you'd be lucky to see her all in a few years.
I'm looking at her. I'm like, hey, you know what? I got shit to do too. So, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. What did I
You know,
do?
like,
I'm gonna go see a movie tomorrow. I'm gonna go see that Machine, that Burt Kreischer movie with the
yeah.
movie club, Suli, Oz, maybe Joe. And then
Yeah.
we're gonna stop by Old School Joe's place to look at his memorabilia stuff that he's selling because I guess he
Like
lost his
what's
job.
left?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't really care about it. I'm just going to be social. I don't really want to buy any of that stuff.
I don't see Kevin Bear going in and being like, "It's a pretty cool movie poster you got there."
Yeah,
I like that.
anything I want, I probably have already had. I mean, he's probably got some cool stuff, but it's the kind of stuff Oz would want. You know, something that's signed by some B actor or something like that. Nothing that I'm gonna. You know, there's just nothing that I'm not. You know, but I'm gonna go just to be social. And then I saw. What did I think I saw a movie recently. What did I see?
So nothing.
Maybe I didn't.
In the theater?
Yeah.
Oh.
I saw it.
John Wick 4?
I saw The Evil Dead. Did I mention that last time? I saw the new Evil Dead.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. I saw John Wick 4, but I saw The Evil Dead. The Evil Dead was as good as you're going to get. Like, if you liked the first Evil Dead, which was kind of scary, kind of. I mean, if you're one of those people, we've gone over this before. If you're one of those people that are like, nothing's scary, I don't have anything for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like, okay, you know, you're cool or you're tough or you don't have whatever it is that's creepy. But there's stuff, you know, I think some stuff is scary. So whatever, you know, especially supernatural shit. Shit always freaks me out. And so I think like the first Evil Dead, and then the second Evil Dead is kind of like a remake of the first one, but it's a little more goofy. Right.
Yeah.
And then when they do Army of Darkness, then it's way more goofy. And then there's a TV series that kind of takes the goofy to the nth degree. Right. Where they rebooted the Evil Dead and I didn't really pay much attention to the first Evil Dead reboot. I heard it was not that great, but I'm sure it was okay. And, but it was like taking over from the first one. So it was meant to be scary. It wasn't meant to be goofy. And this one, is like a sequel to that one. So it's basically like a sequel to the first Evil Dead. And, you know, the whole premise of the Evil Dead series is that there's a book, the Book of the Dead. And if you recite something out of the Book of the Dead, then you're basically cursed with the dead coming to kill you and everybody around you, basically. And there's not a lot more detailed than that, although it was based off of a student film. And in the student film, that's really rough. You can find it on YouTube. It's called Into the Woods, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I guess they're supposed to be the spirits of like American Indians. You know what I mean? Like they're supposed to be like the possessed, you know. And they're just like, the funny thing about the Evil Dead is that they're just, they just want you to die and they're having a great time killing you.
Oh, they're loving it.
Yeah, they're absolutely having a blast.
Which makes it even scarier when they're all laughing and stuff. You're
Right.
just like, stop it.
Right. They just think it's you know, there's nothing else like it in a way. Like there's nothing else I've seen that's, because most other monsters are pretty damn serious or they're too into themselves. Like the Evil Dead, they don't care. They're getting killed, they're laughing and screaming in delight. If they're killing you, they're having a great time doing it. It's you know, but they also seem to like, they want to kind of drag it out. Like they kind of want to beat you up first before they kill you a lot of times.
Yeah, they like to punch a lot.
Yeah, they kind of want to, you know, maybe cut off a body part or something, and you know, I mean, it's just crazy. And so it's like it's intense and it's violent as all get out, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, I gotta say, it's pretty good. I mean, you know, it's as good as you're gonna get if you wanted a sequel to the first one. I mean, that's kind of how you got to look at it. You know, if you wanted it to be more than what it is, you know, that it's not going to be, but it's for what it was. I might go see that De Niro film too, that comedy, because the lady friend wants to see that.
About my dad or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be particularly good, but she likes stuff like that, and I don't. It's all harmless, you know.
That's how my girl likes Sebastian Maniscalco.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And De Niro. I mean, everybody likes De Niro, but
He just had a kid, man. The guy's like 70 something. Just had another kid.
like, yeah, whatever.
Oh, good for him. I mean, glad his parts are still working. But.
Kid's gonna grow up and they're gonna be like, what about your dad? And the kid's gonna be like, I never knew my dad. They'd be like, what do you mean? He'd be like, he died when I was like 3.
Right, no kidding. Although these days some people live a long time, especially if they got money. They manage to keep themselves together. Maybe De Niro's one of them. He was always one of those guys that, kind of kept himself in pretty good shape physically, so he might be like Clint Eastwood and last a long time. Because I mean,
I don't want De Niro to die in 3 years. I'm not saying that. So just everybody
totally
everybody knows. But if you think about it, that kid, right? If he's born like now, right?
Yeah.
And De Niro made movies in the 70s.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's like 50 years. That kid, when he's like in his 50s or 60s, they're going to be like, the 100th anniversary of Robert De Niro's film Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
And he's going to be able to go and he's be like, yeah, I'm his kid. Like, he was my dad. And when I was a kid, used to throw me around and stuff.
Yeah, no, I know. There's a lot of that, it's interesting in a way because the United States, and you know what, not even say the United States, the movie industry isn't really that old. I mean, yeah, you had some movies in the 1800s that were real basic, you know what I mean? Silent guys with a crank making a film. And then, in the 1900s, but you really probably didn't, with the silent pictures and stuff, that just is kind of like all of that is different, I think, than when they started having sound. I mean, it's just like, they made it. It's not just like the movies themselves. Like, they made so many of them. I mean, they just were like, they just threw movies out when they were done with them. They were like, we don't have room for these movies. There's so many movies that are just lost because they were just like, we made a movie this week and we threw that other movie away because, and that was it, and like, they just made tons and tons of movies. And so like, the quality, I mean, people could argue about this in some ways because anybody that looks at something old thinks that, it's important and great and all this sort of stuff. But I think the quality of a lot of those old films wasn't spectacular. Just like a lot of the Westerns when my dad was growing up. There were, most people are familiar with all of the good Westerns, but there were a whole lot of crappy Westerns. I mean, they made a ton of Westerns because kids would go to the movies and pay a nickel or a dime or whatever it was back then. And they didn't have TV, so, they got the radio, and then they would go see a picture, and so they had to get a new movie out every week. They didn't have this 3 months thing, it was like one picture playing for 3 months back, or even a month these days. That back then it was like a week, if you want to see the new movie, it's this week and so you had a lot of throwaway movies, just like all of the monster movies in the 50s and things like that. We all look at them now, with some fondness, but there were a lot of ones, again, like people remember like the Universal Studio ones where, it's like the Frankenstein and Dracula and stuff, but there was a whole lot of garbage ones, man. There's a whole lot that they just turned, pumped out all the time for people. And so it's like, my point though is in saying this is it's like, there's not a lot of generational acting going on because of these paradigm shifts in the movie industries, so it's not like you can go back too many generations of one actor and be like, yeah, my mom was an actor, her mom was an actress, et cetera, et cetera. I think like Kirk Douglas, Michael Douglas, and their son did a movie together. So there was like 3 generations in a film, but I doubt that Kirk Douglas's father was in film is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if he was, maybe he was like, in some Charlie Chaplin thing. But I don't think so. It's like, so there's like sort of there's like a limit on that, but in other careers and fields, you could be like, my dad was a carpenter. My grandfather was a carpenter, my great grandfather was a carpenter. You can go back, man. But, film and stuff like that, not really, not so much.
You could, well, you never know. Maybe Kirk Douglas's dad was a great, stage performer.
Well, that's true. Stage performance. You're right. Stage performance. Yes.
There's vaudeville.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, a lot of those guys came out of vaudeville. You're right.
And all the carnies, all the gypsies.
It's interesting, but you don't hear about it too much, I guess. It's really my point. You don't, if it does exist, you just don't hear about the generational actors too much, other than, like I'm saying, like first and second generation. So, it's just, it's time to go on, it might change.
You know how boring it must have been back then with the silent films? Like to actually be like, I'm going to watch a movie. I'm going to go watch this silent movie. Right. And you're going there and the people enjoyed it. And I don't begrudge them that or anything like that. But I mean, if you think about it, you look at like them old movies and you're like looking at it and it's like the dude walks across the room and then the words pop up on the screen. They're like, and then there was a noise and you're like, what? And then it pops back and then there's like the girls, like making the face like she's screaming.
Right. But you know what, but the thing is it's like you got to think of it like,
I get back then that was probably like cutting edge, and they were like, "Oh my god!"
No! You're right about that. I mean, you would kind of want to. I mean, I would have been like sitting there, like, can't we hire people just to talk? Like, you know what I mean?
like in the theater,
yeah, like dub it behind the screen or something. Like, couldn't you do something like that? But
I hate subtitles on TV and stuff.
But what I'm saying is that, like, I think back in those days, like a lot of people, like most people, things in their lives, they didn't have television. They didn't have magazines. Newspapers didn't have photographs in them. And books rarely did. They a lot of times, if they did anything, it would be a sketch, right? That's just like, look at wanted posters back in the day. Those were just sketches, right?
Right.
So you go in and you start watching a movie. Women are looking at the fashion. They're like, oh my God, I've never seen a dress like that before. Men are seeing the cars, the suits. There's no like if you watch any of those things, people are always like in mansions. They always have like really big houses. They have, giant staircases and all this stuff, because it's like they're sort of selling it to the audiences as of a spectacle that you and I, when we look at it today, we're just like, all that's old shit.
Right,
like, look at all that old crap. Like, it's all old. It's funny. Look at that phone. It's old. But for somebody else, they'd see that phone and they'd be like, wow, that phone. I want a phone like that. That was like, I don't think they were purposely merchandising these things. I don't think they had sponsors like that back then. But I think that people went and saw these movies. It was more than just the plot of the film. It was also like they were seeing things they couldn't experience out in Arkansas on a farm. You know what I mean? They didn't see all of these like things that they saw in movies. And that carried, I think, a lot into the 60s, because a lot of films in the 60s took place in Europe, like, they'd be in Paris, or they'd be in Monaco, or they'd be, traveling. And there was like all of these, like, almost like vacation era pictures or something, like, because people were always doing these exotic things overseas, because your average person couldn't go there, and they didn't have any way to experience what it was like. And so, half the time, they would go see a picture, they would go because they could see everything. I swear my mom, she went to Morocco when she was, I don't know, in her mid 50s, on a tour of Morocco. And, she had a nice time, but I always sat there and I thought to myself, like, why did my mom choose Morocco of all places? And then I watched like some Hitchcock film or something where like, they went over there, and they were talking about the culture and everything. And it was all bullshit. They were talking about how you're supposed to eat chicken with 3 fingers and all this sort of stuff. I think it was like, James Mason or something, or that other guy that's in South by or North by Northwest.
Yeah, I know who you mean.
Yeah,
I can't really think of his name right now.
Yeah, and whichever starring lady was there at the time, and it was one of those things I could just see my mom looking at it as a young girl watching that film.
Gregory Peck?
No, not Gregory Peck. Although he
he
would have been in something like with Audrey Hepburn or something. I think they did like a Paris film. Go on. He's the guy that kind of talks like that.
Jimmy Stewart.
There you go. And that was a terrible Jimmy Stewart, but I'm glad you got it. And Yeah, but I could see her as a young lady watching that and being like, so like seeing that as being
Enamored
so
by it.
exotic, yes, and being so amazing that she probably in her, wanted to always go there, and because they get exposed to it. Now today, and even when we were growing up, we had TV, we had magazines, we had books, with full color photographs and things. So, you could experience most of this stuff. And then, of course, VHS tape wasn't too far away. And so, you can get a lot off of that. And then now you have the internet. But for people back then, man, their only exposure to a lot of this stuff was film. And it really must have been, something for them, like, an experience that I don't think we have or something, or maybe we do, but we would have to be watching something really, cutting edge or something, to have that same sort of experience. I don't know, but I do agree with you. Like, silent pictures are so boring. I mean, even like as a kid, I was just like, I can kind of watch them now, but it's just so lame. Like, it just fucking dub them, man.
Yeah, it's too hard to be staring at the picture and watching what they're doing, and then you got to wait for it to come up and be like, "I think we should open the door," and then it cuts back to them, and you're just like,
yeah, they didn't have like computer things like so. Like, they literally had to like have somebody letter that shit out on a board and then film the board. You know what I mean, of
right.
the words, and then.
Right.
And then just have board after board of what they're saying and stuff like that. And it was all acted weird, and they wear weird makeup, and
Yeah,
the timing was all kind of goofy, and walk too fast or too slow and things. I don't know. It's just, so I don't know. Silent pictures, I don't know when movies really started to become more normalized, but probably in the 30s or 40s, I think. Wizard of Oz
started getting with
is pretty late,
yeah,
or whatever. But yeah, it's right around that time period.
Abbott Costello,
Right, yeah,
Charlie Chaplin, and
they just had a more of a, it was just defined. It was just refined better. I mean, not just with the sound, but it was also just like the pacing of the film and the storylines and things. They started to get into the groove of it. It was less about I don't know, man. But I mean, they made so many movies back in the 20s. Who knows? People were into that sort of stuff. I would also think like they must have. I know they had those newsreels that they had, especially during World War II and everything. But they must have also filmed like events and then had those at theaters, wouldn't you think? Like if you wanted to watch like a car race or something, like wouldn't they have like filmed it and then, I don't know, put it in theaters or something? Screen. Yeah, like you would think that. I mean, you never really hear about it, but if you wanted to watch like the Queen of England get married or something back then, I don't know if that even happened. Go ahead.
I remember an episode of MASH where he came in and he goes, "Hey everybody!" It was like the end of the year, and he comes in and he goes, "Hey everybody! I got the reel of the World Series of like all the stuff that happened over the year."
Yeah.
And then they all had to go get a projector and put a screen on, and they all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They all got gathered round and then just played the film.
Right. And that's the mid 50s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Korean War. I mean, granted, it's a TV show, but I'm sure that's exactly how it was. It's just like that's the mid 50s, and people still had to like resort to film because there's like, while TV did exist in the 40s, it was still kind of. I mean, it certainly wasn't out in Korea at that point, but it was still kind of, getting there. Like my dad was born in 1940. And I think he lived in New York until he was 13. So he was probably there until like 63. And I was sitting there thinking about it. And I think it was probably unlikely that my dad had a TV of his own, even up to 1963. I don't think, because TVs were expensive, first of all. And I don't think, his father made a lot of money. And I don't think they brought a TV into the house or anything like that. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the reasons why my dad watched so much TV, because for him, that was his sort of, ingrained sort of treat to himself, that he didn't have. Now, my grandfather was murdered or whatever, and my dad was 13, and then they moved to Canada, and I'm sure they got a TV when they were up in Canada, and I'm sure it was half in French and probably terrible. But he eventually, had television, but I'm just saying, like, when he was young, he probably just didn't have it, and then he probably went over a friend's house or something and got to watch something, but they were probably still doing radio up until, like, the early 60s. And so that's just how it was. I don't know. It's crazy, and what they were exposed to, I think, was just like basically like Westerns and like those sort of the Shadow Nose or Dick Tracy or any of that kind of stuff. It was real Superman, maybe real basic New York type styles, because I don't think, I think that's the other interesting thing about television at that time when it was first coming into being. It really wasn't Hollywood. It was New York. Because the New York had the radio, and they had all of the radio people, doing the radio shows, the talk.
That's where all the radio,
And then they transitioned to television, and, they were broadcasting it out of there. So they were always doing like city type stories. You know what I mean? Like television. I mean, not the Westerns. The Westerns obviously came out of California somewhere. But the New
Wise
York,
Guy,
Wise Guy, the Dick Tracy,
listen here, Shane.
Right, all of the crime fighting and things like that. I think it was all basically, and plus the odd or the honeymooners and that kind of stuff.
Right.
All came out of New York, and then I think, and then eventually, obviously, because Hollywood had all of the acting and the talent, it all eventually. Well, most of it moved there. There's still a lot of stuff in New York. I mean, game shows are mostly in New York, from what I understand, right? I mean, some of them are in Hollywood studios, but I think a lot of them are still in New York.
Letterman did his show in New York.
Yeah, and I think MTV headquarters, right, or like right down there in like Times Square. They used to do, what was that? That TRL or something, Total Request Live. A lot of stuff was in New York. News,
like the news. I was going to say Al Roker and all that stuff.
Yeah. So it's like but it was interesting because it's like television had its roots more in New York, where like film, for whatever reason, oddly, I guess, was a West Coast thing. It's weird that took root out there. I don't know why, really. Maybe it was because land was cheap at that time. So you could buy big movie sets and stuff and build stuff out there in the desert.
There's probably that and just the landscape itself, because it's, California is like really, from what I hear, I've never been there, but I hear it's very nice looking.
No, for sure. But it's a lot of equipment and things, and, you need to have production and facilities and people and all this sort of, there's a lot of money in the motion pictures, but it's interesting. Like, it went there, and you know what I mean? Like, why didn't it go anywhere else too? Like, why didn't, like, I don't know. Like, what's another
New
populous
Mexico
place? Well, I mean, maybe not enough people in New Mexico, but maybe you could do like Texas or something.
If you did Texas, it'd be all cowboy movies.
Yeah, but you could be like, you could have studios making movies out of Texas instead of California. But it seemed like everybody kind of just said, we're all going to go to California. We're all going to California, and that's where we're going to make movies. I don't know. I mean, it's probably just where the movie studio's set up. Maybe it was a tax break thing. I don't know.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's kind of weird. I'm sure I could look up Wikipedia and read about it, but I'm not that interested.
Yeah.
I'm just not really, the mystery is fine. Don't really need to know. Don't need to know the answer to that one. One thing I was thinking about too, when Judas Priest, got rid of Rob Halford for a while, and they brought on that guy from Akron. What's his name?
Ripper Tim Owens.
Yeah. Ripper Owens. And it made me think to myself, I was thinking about this before. It was like, maybe Cleveland and our surrounding area, like maybe Ohio and like neighboring states, maybe we're really big into cover bands here. And maybe that's not the way it is in other parts of the country. I'm not saying there's not cover bands in these other parts of the country, but I think it's a bigger thing here because, like, there's a lot of them. There's like a lot of them, and they seem to tour around a lot. Like, we were talking, like, I'm going to go on this camping thing and I'm going to go see the classic rock thing. And there's like all these classic rock bands. And I was looking at it, and they all kind of tour around like the same area, which is the area I'm talking about. Like it's kind of
the Midwest.
yeah, kind of in this little pocket of area here, and you don't, at least up here, you don't hear too much about cover bands in other like in Florida or California and stuff. And again, I know that there's some. There's a garage band in every neighborhood. I get that, but it's like do they get to play at like bars and stuff like they do around here? Because I mean, they're everywhere around here. I just was at the bar today and there was some guy playing like grunge tunes on a guitar singing. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, it's just so part of the culture here there's cover bands everywhere. Just everywhere.
Yeah.
It's
Well, it's
crazy.
the easiest way. Musically, it's the easiest way to make money because
Play the
original
hits.
music, yeah, you're playing songs that people are familiar with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you do them good, then the people will get behind you. It basically is the easiest way to make money because a bar will pay you $300-$400 to come in and play for a night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can do songs you didn't even write. You know what I mean? You're just like, okay, I'm going to just play all these Kiss tunes or whatever. I'm going to play all this, whatever.
Right, but people got to
You know?
show up. And that's the thing they do around here, right? Like you look at Disco Inferno. I mean, they must play, like they just play every weekend. They play a different place in the Cleveland area. And they pull a big crowd like every time. So it's like people are just like, let's go watch this cover band and we'll pay the door cover to go in and watch, you know?
And that's the thing is those are the people that go into the bar anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people are like, hey, you want to go to the bar Friday night? Yeah, sure. Hey, I heard Disco Inferno's playing it, blah, blah, blah. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm in, you know, and that's just kind of how that one works. Whereas like when it was Adversary, right? And we'd get a show at Flashes, that wasn't playing a bar. There was a bar in the place, but that wasn't playing a bar. That was like a show.
Yeah.
You know, and you're hard pressed to get anybody to come out to come see, you know, 4 original bands.
Right.
You know,
right. We talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so it's like being in a cover band, you can get a lot more gigs and stuff. I mean, I played in that cover band with Mark Shea. We did one show. I think I made more money that night than I made in any nights with Adversary, Turnbuckle, whoever. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, I get the appeal. I just feel like it's just around here. It's just like I'm going to a campground for 2 days, and it's going to be like there's like a dozen cover bands playing, like a dozen of them, or maybe more than that, maybe more than a dozen, like a dozen a day or something. It's crazy. 2 different stages. It's all cover bands. I mean, who does this?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, and you get a lot of like all the old bands. You know what I mean? Like people who are in, you know what I mean? People who are still touring or whatever, and they're like, oh, I can play for 100 people or 150 people in some bar or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, and they're still doing it. You're just kind of like, wow, because Stephen Piercy, he was just at the Willoughby rib cook-off or whatever last weekend.
Right.
And it's just like, this dude was headlining arenas. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
They were like top of the line, big time. But like Rick Springfield is always on the rib cook-off circuit.
Yeah.
And that's what and that's like the area you said. You know what I mean? That Midwest kind of Indiana, Illinois, like, you know, Chicago, Detroit, Pennsylvania, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they're just on that constant loop, you know, because they know that these people are like, we'll come see the original person who did the song if they're playing. And if not, we'll come see another band play all that person's songs.
I wonder about this current generation of young kids that are, you know, like your daughter's generation. Whatever that is, Generation Z maybe or something. I just wonder if they're going to be doing the sorts of things that people have historically done, not just our generation, but other generations too, in the sense of, are they going to go to the bars as much as we go to the bars? Or are they going to go to concerts as much as we go to concerts? I know they go to some. I'm not saying that they're all staying inside, but I'm wondering if they're going to go in the volumes that would make it still profitable for businesses to stay up, because there's such an online culture. Their entertainment is so internet based for many of them that, you know, live stuff probably doesn't have the same appeal, because we grew up on it because that was at the time the only way You didn't have the internet. You couldn't on demand anything. You know, if you
Right,
wanted
right.
to do something, you had to go. So, you know, it becomes part of our culture, but I don't know if it's part of their culture in the same way, you know. And I've talked about this before in the sense of like, I don't know, you know, whenever I see like cover bands and stuff like that or bands out, you don't see a lot of young people in bands anymore. And there's some, but you don't
Right.
see it like it was. And, you know, when I go to the bar, look, I go to any old bar. Like when, you know, somebody says, "Hey, meet me at this bar," go to that bar and this kind of thing and that kind of thing. And there's different bands playing, cover bands and all this sort of stuff. And I'll tell you, like the young people, like the adversary age that you guys were at, like I never see these bands. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'll see a younger group playing some cover songs, you know, like a younger girl singing, that kind of stuff. But
No, it's all old dudes.
but yeah, it's all old dudes, right? And it's like you wonder if generationally these things are going to stop. Like classic rock radio is probably going to die at some point because I mean, there's like a lot of people like us that probably still like it, but I can't imagine it's going to hold on too much longer because the numbers are going to just dwindle over time.
Well,
And
I mean, classic rock keeps changing, so
well, that's true.
Yeah.
They keep adding things to it. That's true. You're right. Metallica and stuff's on there now. They wouldn't even play that.
Right.
I'm kind of mad about that inside. It's like,
right. When we wanted to hear it on the radio, they never played it and they laughed at us.
yeah, and now it's just like
Jerks.
classic rock. It's like what the. But no, I don't know. I wonder that they're going to be into other things. Don't get me wrong. They're going to go do. They're going to have
there's gonna be
other
something.
stuff. I'm not there. It's not like the life changes and ends. It's just going to be different. And I just wonder because going to concerts and going to bars to watch bands and that kind of thing has been around forever, really. And now with the internet and the more immediate future, I just think they would be bored. I think they would be bored because I'm kind of bored when I go to the bar, drink,
right.
watch a band. It's pretty boring, right? But you go out because you're being social and it's the kind of thing to do. But their social network is so online, they'd be probably just like, why would I want to go do that? You know? And you'd be like, well, you know, you see people, and you're like, yeah, no. You know, and I think that while some people will go do it, I don't know if it's going to be in the numbers necessary to keep things in business. And we might see a retraction and a consolidation, or bars and concerts and things will have to change in a way that it becomes more appealing to these people. And I'm interested to see what happens. I'm interested to see, if I'm right and we see that kind of a change in the way society works. I also wonder, like we've seen how Generation X has raised their children, right? Generation Z, your kids, your Generation X. I'll be interested to see if I live long enough how Generation Z raises their children, right? Because we overcompensated with our kids because we were ignored. This is just as a generational thing, not anybody in particular. We were ignored in our generation. We were kicked outside to go play. Parents didn't really spend a lot of time with us. We had to make our own way. We were a lot of latchkey kids. Nobody was home when we got home, all that kind of stuff. So when we started to have children as a generation, we overcompensated. We became everything in our kids' lives because we wanted them to feel loved and cared for in a way that we weren't, and so those kids became very, I don't know, nurtured, I guess is a good word, and very, like a lot of helicopter parents around their kids all the time, a lot more than when we were growing up. And so then I wondered, these really nurtured, cared about kids, are they spoiled kids? I don't think that's necessarily the case. And some kids are, but there were spoiled kids when we were kids. But they were used to being very emotionally connected to their relatives, their parents, for instance, or maybe their siblings. And are they going to be able to give that back to their kids? Or are their kids going to end up like Generation X? Are they going to be ignored by their parents because their parents are more selfish and wanting their own attention? And that your generation's going to repeat itself. You're going to have another version of Generation X come from Generation Z, where a bunch of kids, just or ignore it and become latchkey kids. I don't know. I mean, we might all nuke ourselves too before that happens. So anything's possible. But these are just things I just run through my head. So
I think excuse me. I think what I'm recognizing, because these people came to pick up this furniture the other day, and they had their 2 little kids running around at the pickup area there, and it's like, get your kids out of here. Like, don't be coming back into the store here in the back of the warehouse. The kid found a piece of styrofoam, like a good chunk of styrofoam, and he started rubbing it on his hand, and the door's open and the wind starts blowing and all these, and he's just making a big mess. Styrofoam, right. It's going all over people's furniture that's sitting there by the back door waiting to get picked up, and the mother's just standing there, not even paying attention to him, not even looking. And I looked over at him. I go, "Hey, what are you doing?" And she turns around and goes, "Oh, and they were not. They weren't born English speaking. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
They were from a foreign place." So she started yelling at him in some language, and it was like, "Oh, stop it!" And now she's standing there brushing off all the furniture with all the little styrofoam pellets on it. And it's like, it's still windy. The wind's still blowing. The doors are still wasting your time. It's like, just get out. I mean, I'm not saying that, but it's like, I think, like you said, it's like we were raised where it was like no parents, nobody was really paying attention to us. Go out in the woods and play, that kind of thing. And then it flipped over where we're paying more attention. I think there's a chunk of parents in there who are super not paying attention. You know what I mean? It's like they went back to the way it was.
Yeah.
Maybe because that's how they had it when they were growing up, and they just fucking super did it. You know what I mean? They really are not paying attention because they're just not. It's ridiculous.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think there's definitely a group like that, obviously, and I think, but school and the apparatuses around that have also changed dramatically, in the sense of school is a lot more invested in the kids, and they get in parents' involvement. So the kids have all these extracurricular activities, and the school is making their education. When I went to school, I mean, if we didn't show up, they barely noticed. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you might get a note that says, "Hey, you didn't come to school this day." If you got suspended, like if you got in-school suspension, I don't think my dad knew about it. Like, I don't think there was any notice home that this kid got suspended. Now, if you got out of school suspension, that was a different thing. But if you got in-school suspension, I don't think so. And we certainly didn't have anything with detentions. And grades, I mean, basically, you had interims, which were between report cards that came in the mail. And I honestly think those were worse than report cards, because I could choose when to give my dad the report card, when the mood was right. Interims was like opening the mailbox right when they get home from work, when they're in the worst mood possible. And it's the worst time to get bad grades and that kind of thing in school. But otherwise, there was just really no involvement. And as far as extracurricular activities after school went, I mean, it wasn't pushed on us. And while there were things that you could do, a lot of it cost money, and it was just outside of our reach. Where, I mean, I'm sure things cost money today, but people have more means than parents did back in our day. So, I mean, kids did do stuff, but it's different now. It's just so much more involved, and I think that also has a lot to do with it. So parents can be disconnected because they have all of these other things helping to raise their children. Where with us, man, be lucky you got through school, basically. I mean, I don't know. But it depends. Yeah. It just depends. Like Tom Packard, our good friend, his parents were much more involved in his life. He ended up with a good education. You know what I mean? He still managed to go out and party and do all these sorts of things, but he got good grades in school, and all this sort of thing. And I think that really matters, because I would say his parents were far more involved in his life versus, say, yours or mine. You know what I mean? That's not to say that our parents didn't love us and care about us. It's just that, I don't know, they were just kind of detached from what we were doing.
It's not that they didn't love us or care about us, but my dad. That's, you know,
Right. I mean, my dad didn't want to get up and he didn't really want to be bothered.
right,
He just wanted me
right.
to
Just leave me
handle it.
alone.
Yeah. And then as long as I didn't have to bring him home any bullshit, then he didn't
Right.
care, and he wasn't going to I wasn't going to come home and be like, Dad, can I join such and such club? Not that I could because I was working because I didn't have any money, but I wasn't going to join some club or something because he couldn't pay for it. And a lot of those things also require parental involvement because they usually need volunteers to help do things,
Right.
and my dad wasn't going to do any of that. So it was just better not to even bring it up because I didn't want to bother him, because if you bothered him, then it's like playing with a live grenade. At some point it's going to go off. Some people are going to get hurt. It just wasn't good. And so it's a different life.
If I got in trouble at school and they called home and got my dad on the phone,
oh Jesus,
I wouldn't hear. He would first yell at them for calling him, because first he'd be like, "Why are you calling me and irritating me with this stuff?" And they'd be like, "Because you're his dad. We have to tell you." And he's like, "Whatever." And when I got home, that's what he would yell at me first about. That would be the first thing. It's like, so I had to get up off the couch and go answer the phone just to hear them talk about blah 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 blah. And it was just like, I'm screwed. I just knew I was screwed because it's like he hasn't even gotten to what I did wrong.
Right.
And then that's coming. So yeah.
And then you'd have those moments where you're just like, when you knew that something bad was waiting for you at home, and you'd sit there in your head and you'd be like, do I go home?
Yeah.
Where
can I go?
Do I just maybe not ever go home again? Because I don't want to deal with that. Nothing good is going to happen by me going home right now. Like, it's just,
you go home, he's angry. If you don't go home, he's still going to be angry.
Right.
But he's going to be even angrier.
Right. But yeah, I mean, there was times where I just didn't go home because I was just like, forget it. My brother had to talk me into going home. And I was just like, look, you better tell Dad. Because, I mean, I can't. I'm not. I know.
This
and I don't.
Happening.
Yeah, I'm not going to get screamed at. I'm going to leave. Just at that point in my life. All right, well, we're long. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Happy Memorial Day. And
Memorial Day.
We will try to do a show next week. Have a good one.
Peace.
You've been listening to Oblast with Don and Kevin. If you'd like to write into the show, send an email to oblast@vgn.us. That is VGN as in video game news. And be sure to check out our Patreon page, which is at patreon.com/VGN, where you can get all of our shows, our videos, and some musings. Be sure to tune in each week for new episodes on our Patreon page, or every other week on the public RSS feed that you're subscribed to now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Peace.